Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something a little morbid, definitely high stakes, but honestly absolutely fascinating. We are looking at the dark realities of mythological punishments. We usually just see these ancient myths as cool stories about gods and monsters, right? But if you look just beneath the surface, they actually reveal this incredibly rigorous, almost terrifying system of cosmic correction. So we're going to catalog the creative, the horrific, and yeah, sometimes the beautifully tragic ways the gods dealt with mortals who stepped out of line. Let's get into it.
Okay, so take a look at this quote, because it perfectly captures our core thesis for today. In mythology, divine retribution isn't about human fairness at all. It's about architecture. We're talking about the literal architecture of the cosmos and those rigid, non-negotiable boundaries that separate us mortals from the divine. When a human decides to, run sideways against the rules of existence, the gods aren't just punishing them out of petty spite, they're actively restoring the balance. The absolute crucial point here is that these punishments are structural corrections. They're meant to keep the entire universe from just falling apart.
All right, moving into Section 1, Erasing the Human Form, the Loss of Gratitude.
The story of Adalanta and Melanian hits the nail right on the head when it comes to the extreme cost of ingratitude. So, picture this. They use these magical golden apples, a direct gift from Aphrodite, to win a high-stakes race and secure their marriage. Huge win, right? But in the thrill of victory, they completely forget to thank the goddess. Whoops! The cosmic correction here was incredibly swift. Just like that, they are transformed into lions and literally yoked to a chariot. It is a profound, if totally brutal lesson. If you forget the divine favor that actually brought you your success, you risk losing the very humanity that allows you to enjoy it in the first place.
And this concept builds even further with the legendary hunter Actaeon. Now, his transgression wasn't some calculated malicious act. It was just a really tragic accident. He simply stumbled upon the virgin goddess Artemis while she was bathing in the woods. But here is the kicker. Cosmic architecture? It doesn't care about your intent. The punishment was absolutely brutal. Artemis turns him into a stag, and his own hunting dogs, who obviously no longer recognize their master, tear him apart. It is wild to think about. Just one single moment of misplaced awareness leading to complete, inescapable self-destruction. Next up, Section 2, The Weight of Hubris, Struck from the Sky.
Bellerophon is essentially the poster child for this kind of hubris. This prince pulled off something literally incredible. He successfully slays the monstrous chimera while riding the winged horse Pegasus. But you know how it goes. That success breeds an ego so massively inflated that he actually tries to fly Pegasus all the way up to Mount Olympus itself. He's actively seeking glory way beyond his natural limits. So the consequence? Zeus strikes him right out of the sky. No hesitation. Now, Bellerophon actually survives the literal fall, but his figurative fall leaves him to wander completely alone for the rest of his life. It's just this dramatic, sobering lesson on exactly what happens when a human mind seeks glory it has absolutely no business pursuing.
And then, of course, we have Phaethon. To prove he was the literal son of the sun god Helios, this kid insisted on driving the sun chariot. And it went exactly as poorly as you'd expect. He was incredibly reckless, completely lost control, and literally ended up scorching the earth, creating vast deserts in the process. To save the entire world from a total global catastrophe, Zeus had to step in and strike him down with a thunderbolt. Phaethon's tragic fate is pretty much the ultimate punishment for recklessness. It shows us exactly what goes wrong when a human demands a level of power they are simply not biologically or mentally wired to handle.
Moving on to Section 3. Torment and impossible labors, the eternal void and redemption. Take a quick look at this definition here. This actually comes directly from the myth of Tantalus. In fact, it is exactly where we get the English word tantalize. So Tantalus completely betrayed the gods' trust with this horrific test of their omniscience. Depending on the version, he either stole their sacred ambrosia or he literally chopped up and served them his own son. Yeah, really dark stuff. Because of this ultimate betrayal, he was condemned to the eternal void of the underworld. His punishment? He is forced to stand in a pool of clear water, right beneath branches heavy with fruit. But every single time he reaches for a drink or tries to take a bite, the water drains away and the fruit slips just out of his reach. Notice how smoothly this ancient mythology maps onto our modern psychology? Seriously, Tantalus's torment perfectly mirrors our own self-destructive modern habits. Like the endless doom loop of comparison, the punishment is modular. It's agonizingly repetitive. It traps the victim in this vicious cycle where satisfaction is just this moving target. It's always right there, completely visible, but forever slipping away the second you reach for it. It's a brilliant, if utterly terrifying, psychological trap. But
not all forced labors in mythology are purely designed for eternal torment. Some actually offer a really brutal path to redemption. Let's contrast Tantalus with Heracles. Driven completely into madness by a jealous Hera, Heracles commits the absolute unthinkable and kills his own family. So what is his cosmic correction? Forced contribution. He is assigned 12 completely impossible labors, ranging from slaying the famously invulnerable Nemean lion to literally traveling down into the underworld to capture the three-headed dog Cerberus.
These labors weren't just busy work. They were meticulously designed to push a mortal to their absolute breaking point, testing Heracles' endurance, his cleverness, and his raw brute power. I think this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept of heroic perseverance. It goes to show that even a deeply tragic warrior, someone burdened by just immense crushing guilt, can systematically conquer chaos and actually earn his immortality. So Heracles conquered chaos with sheer brute strength and physical endurance. But let's pause for a second and ask ourselves this. What happens when human genius actually threatens life itself? We're going to pivot right now from the raw physical strength of heroes to the visionary intelligence of mortals. The kind of intelligence that dared to disrupt the very natural order of the cosmos.
Which brings us to Section 4, Restoring the Cosmic Balance. The End of Genius.
Let's look at the story of Asclepius. This guy was a visionary healer. He was so unbelievably gifted that he could literally bring the dead back to life. But he was essentially way too good at his job. By resurrecting the dead, he completely disrupted the natural balance of nature, and as you can imagine, deeply angered Hades. Now, Zeus didn't strike Asclepius down because the healer was evil, not at all. He killed him with a thunderbolt simply to prevent the total collapse of the life and death cycle itself. It is a really grim reminder for us. Even absolute life-saving genius has strict cosmic boundaries that it just cannot cross.
All right, Section 5, Celestial Legacy, the Exile of the Soul.
This story of Arkas and Callisto is honestly just heartbreaking. Callisto had been turned into a bear by a deeply jealous Hera. Years later, her son Arkas is out hunting, and he comes across this bear. Having no idea it's his own mother, he nearly kills her. To prevent this absolutely horrific tragedy from playing out, Zeus intervenes at the last possible second. But his architectural correction here is actually a form of exile. He transforms both mother and son into the constellations we look up and see today as Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. So yes, they are safe and they are immortal. But they are essentially exiled to the night sky, forever suspended, half connected to each other, and half apart from the living world.
And finally, Section 6, the ultimate lesson, accepting our nature.
Let's tie all these ancient, terrifying systems of punishment right back to our own modern choices. Because the crucial takeaway here is this. Whether you are facing the vast, silent stillness of the stars like Callisto, or that eternal, agonizingly moving target of hunger like Tantalus, the fact remains that we do not exist in a vacuum. True peace, it's found in accepting the truth of our own nature. It's found in respecting the boundaries of our existence, rather than constantly, endlessly trying to dominate them.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question to really reflect on. What hidden systems are you trying to dominate in your own life right now? Where is your own hubris pushing you to run sideways against the rules of your own existence? Food for thought, right? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. If you found this breakdown insightful, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next deep dive into the fascinating architecture of our world. See you next time.